And what Vince and I have established would be a good thing for me to share with you is the thing that's most productive in my backyard, and that is our wicking beds or our water-wise garden beds. That's what we tend to grow most of our homegrown produce in. It's the most efficient way for us to keep optimal moisture levels in our vegetable gardens so that we get the best chance of good produce. And I'd just like to take half an hour today to introduce you to the concept if you're new to it, or to give you some examples if you're familiar with it, or really just give you some of that encouragement to go out and grow some food. Can I just ask some questions as we start? Who has a backyard vegetable garden? Excellent. Who reckons they eat out of their backyard vegetable garden every week? Every day? If you've got friends come around and you're trying to scrape together a little bit extra, what do? Go out in the backyard and work out what you can do? That's our story. And I actually quite like it when we are able to share the produce that we grow. When family and friends come around and we're putting a meal together, we will normally have a protein, and it's not something we've reared in our backyard, although my wife would love to have a goat. You'll see some photos of our backyard in a minute and you'll see why that's not possible. We have had chickens over the years that we've used both for meat and for eggs, but at the moment we outsource our meat. We buy that from as good a growers as we can find, and we grow as much of our leafy greens and our vegetables so that we can have a salad ready without too much notice. That's our goal. What I will share with you as we go through is the motivation that I have for growing food. And I'll tell you this up front, it is to create a buffer between me and Coles and Woolworths. I'm not going to tell you that you can turn your 700-metre backyard into a fully self-sufficient farm where you can feed your family of 25 and your church of 40. It's really hard to grow food in small scale, but it is easy to grow small amounts to create a buffer between you and the supply system, so that if Coles shuts its doors for a few days, you don't actually get affected that much. How many of you would panic if Coles shuts its doors for a week? I would worry about some things, like we would be worried about you notice it on public holidays. When the one day of the year on Good Friday or whichever day it is where the supermarket's actually shut, people go into panic mode over one day. So we're going to work our way through. I want to share, I was raised in a morally good home. All right? My parents were upright citizens and they raised me well. I was born on the right side of the tracks, not the wrong side of the tracks, but they didn't know the Lord. But as growing up, we grew up on a 5-acre bush block with chooks, sometimes ducks, vegetables, an orchard of fruit trees. That was just the way I grew up. It was normal for us to do that. Mum and Dad didn't really like harvesting our own meat, so we kind of drew the line there. We did it occasionally, but not very often. But we would grow our vegetables and eat the fruit of the land. And Mum and Dad raised me with that as part of my upbringing. My heritage passed down from father to son is a love of growing produce. My wife, who may not be here just yet, Dana, you get to meet her if you haven't already, she grew up in a suburban backyard in Canberra, and she grew up with a family that kept pigeons in their backyard in an aviary for pigeon pie. So she grew up and there was a Ukrainian-Russian influence that came across, and they would raise meat, they would harvest, and her father, who we don't see anymore, but her father used to raise pigeons and put them in the pie. That was her heritage. So our family mixed together have blended into a family where Dana tells me what she wants me to build in the backyard, and I build it, and then she goes about telling me what to plant, and I help her plant it. And she tells me when to harvest it, and I harvest it because she has the interest to manage that. I'm the labourer, she's the manager, and I like that arrangement because I can just go about doing the work and I don't have to plan too much about what goes in next. So she's the one who staggers our plantings, she's the one who thinks about what we're going to need in 6 to 8 weeks or 12 weeks, she knows our crop rotation, our companion planting. So if you've got questions about that, ask her, because I just repeat what she tells me. But we've been growing, since we were married and started our family down in Bendigo, where, central Victoria, we grew vegetables down there. And in Victoria, you have a winter season and a summer season, and you grow winter vegetables in winter, and you grow your spring, summer through the warm and the hot. And we moved up, and down there we grow I can't remember right now, as much as we could. But when we moved up to Brisbane, we were a bit excited, but we found quickly that the climate's very different. And you don't have a winter crop here. We find it hard to grow winter vegetables up here, but we have had some success. But what we learned is your growing season, and our growing season now, is through the cooler months where things don't bolt to seed quickly, and over summer you're hard pressed to keep things growing. Watered, not wilting under heat stress, well tended to and well cared for. So we learnt in Bendigo, cool climate, hot summer. We've tried to bring ourselves up into Brisbane, and we've had to relearn a lot because subtropical growing is very different. And going forward, we'd like to think that we're teaching our kids, and as a pastor of a church, the men have known this. Last year we were doing some men's little workshops, some practical skills, and we had a workshop down here in the car park teaching men how to back a trailer. We did that last year. I like the idea of bringing about resilience and maturity in our people, that we can be capable, that we don't depend on others when we can learn and do things ourselves. So as a father and as a pastor, I want to encourage people to try and grow food. We face some problems. You see pictures up there, you can see the flood, and that poor bloke's got a sign that says fresh bush honey for sale, and I hope his hives are up nice and high. That's out at Ipswich in 2022. All right. Drought area here in Brisbane back in the early 2000s. We were down in Victoria and it was hot, and we were under water restrictions, and we had like stage 5 restrictions down in Bendigo before I moved up here. You know what you guys were dealing with? Even worse. Do you know why? Because Wivenhoe's too small. Because our catchments up here for holding water are so small because we depend on consistent rainfall. But as that changes and rainfall becomes less and less consistent, then we have problems, and Wivenhoe fills quickly and it empties far too quickly. It's an issue that needs to be overcome. I've put some problems up here that I think need to be addressed, and Waterwise garden beds help us with that. But water security for me is a concern. Is it a concern for you? A couple of times in the last few years, we've had notices come through from the council saying that our water is not safe to use unless you boil it, and don't use it for 2 or 3 days while they do a chlorine treatment, they do some other things, they chemically do their catch up on their water treatment. We get a notice saying don't use it without boiling, purify it if you can. And I worry as the world gets worse that the things that we find consistent and predictable and reliable, like power when they flick the lights come on, you turn the tap, the water comes on. I want to know what happens if that is not consistent. Do you wonder about that? I do think about it. I don't lay in bed awake at night going, I really hope the water doesn't turn off, but I do wonder, how can I build the buffer between my dependence upon instant services? And the answer is you put some water tanks in your backyard and you try and save some rainwater. Right? The simple things, and a little bit of rainwater goes a long way if you use it wisely. If you try and use it the same way you do full pressure out of the garden hose, how quick does your tank water run out? You guys that have tank water? How quick can you run through a tank full of water if you just pour it all on the top of your garden? Oh, it's gone in a minute. So what do? Water treatment concerns me a little bit. Inconsistent rainfall concerns me. Droughts and floods. By the way, if you get a real big flood come through your backyard, which we have had, what happens to your vegetable garden? Because heat stress is bad and water stress is bad too. And you find you get one then the next. You've got hail, then you've got scorching sun, and you've got flooding rain. Here in Brisbane, that happens quite often. This one came out in the COVID response. You ever go down to Coles and not be able to get the thing you need? Yeah. Oh, through COVID it was terrible, and you got rations and all that stuff happening. It was just a bit of an eye-opener for me. I wondered, well, if this lasts and this goes on, how am I going to be more resilient? How am I going to feed my kids? How am I going to care for the widows of the church who can't do these things? Our church is growing older, and I'm fairly young still, and I have a burden. I'm not expecting people in their 60s, 70s, well, 60s and 70s maybe I am, but in our 70s and 80s and into our 90s, I'm not expecting you to be out there turning soil, building compost, planting gardens and harvesting crops. I want to be able to feed you. I do. I want our church to be able to care for those that have needs. And that's consistent with the New Testament. Surely the early church tended to the needs of widows and orphans. And as Christians today, we should bear that responsibility seriously. Who does it now? Centrelink. the government. Do you trust the government to care for your widows and your orphans? Do you think that should be the responsibility of Christians? I think it should be. I think it's our duty to care for those that are vulnerable in our community. By the way, we try and eat organic food, and Dana has had some fairly serious dietary restrictions over the years and hasn't been able to eat most foods on the shelf. So our market is the limited market. You know, the health food section of the supermarket or the specialty stores. How much does organic produce cost you? Too much. Is it good quality? It's terrible quality, because you wonder whether it's truly organic. That's one of the concerns you have. But you can find reliable growers and reliable places where you have that concern met. But they stock once or twice a week, and their produce sits on the shelves for a long time and it wilts. So it just doesn't look fresh like conventional produce does, and you pay top dollar for it. Now, I'm burdened to try and minimise the grocery bill for my family, so leafy greens that you can pick fresh straight out of your garden, or leafy greens that have sat on the shelf at Market Organics and they sell for $7.95 a little punnet, just go pick some out of your garden. So there's a financial pressure that needs to be overcome. Now, I've mentioned what happens if Coles shuts its doors for a few days. The just-in-time stock management system is vulnerable. I've got it down here. Just-in-time stock management is the idea that trucks come regularly to replenish the stock that's been sold. Now, big companies do this because they don't want to carry unnecessary stock. Coles can't hold on to things that last for weeks and weeks on its shelf because that space needs to be used to make money with the turnover. So what they do is they get a truck. You know, 15 years ago it used to be every 3 days they get a truck, which means they've only got 3 days worth of stock for certain lines before they run out. You know, it's every day now. Every night, Coles gets a delivery and the stocks are reshelved every single day. So if the trucks stop running because diesel price goes through the roof, or there's conflict in our country, which is going on in other parts of the world, and the groceries aren't delivered to our regular places, one day, and it will feel the pinch. You won't get 3 days notice. If it happens, you'll be left going, okay, what do I do now? Probably come around to my place and we'll have a salad. And you think I'm joking, but I'm actually not, because I'm not growing food for my benefit at the expense or the neglect of others. Like, some people get this idea that people are preparing for the end of the world and they're hoarding their supplies and they have no love for anyone. Now, Christians should prepare for, create that buffer so that we can best tend to the needs of others, so that we can care. Just-in-time stock management is a vulnerability. Clean food is an issue for me. Personally, we eat organic food. I try to do that as much as we can. Not exclusively because it's too expensive, but we try as best as we're able to avoid chemical use and GMOs. That's just our conviction, our position. That's what we try and do. One of the reasons that I have that concern is because there's been research done for years and years about how to medicate populations through their food. The science is being developed right now to put mRNA vaccines into food. They put it into, and I haven't got the research paper here, and I didn't really want to go down this line, but I will say this because I've kind of opened that can, so I best kind of explain. They want to create an mRNA vaccine that's shelf stable at room temperature. And at the moment, that can't be done, or it hasn't been done. That's why if anyone went out and got vaccinated with the COVID vaccine, it comes out of the fridge, right? It's not shelf stable at room temperature. But they've come up with research where they can make it shelf stable in an orange juice capsule for 1 year. So they're doing that so that they can then create a food delivery system. Why? You know, they've mass medicated poor countries to deal with things like HIV before. This is the way the globalists work. So I'm not telling you to be so suspicious that you never eat anything, but I want you to be thinking about the food that you eat, where you get it from, and how it's been made, grown, and treated. Right? That's what I do, which is why we try and grow what we can. You might have heard about the Dirty Dozen. These are the highest trace residues of pesticides found on food. These 12, I've got the clean 15 over the page. These change each year. It's a US company that does this. They test the produce and they work out how much trace pesticide and residue of the spray protocol is found on foods. And the worst, like the highest ratings, are then kind of labelled the dirty dozen. And it changes each year, depending on the protocol and the way things are treated. So I look at that and I go, okay, can I grow kale? Yeah, I can grow kale. Can I grow strawberries? I can grow strawberries. Can I grow cucumber? Can I grow spinach? Yes. Blueberries, I'm not so good at. Capsicums, yes. Grapes, yes. Peaches and pears, maybe not so much. But there are some foods there on the dirty dozen list. I go, you know what? I can concentrate on growing those to minimise the higher pesticide-heavy plants. And then these ones that aren't, maybe onions you could argue about, because those can be quite bad as well. And normally it's the tough skin fruits like your oranges that tend to be okay, but here we've got grapefruits that have a high residue of pesticide, sorry, a low one. So these are the clean 15. So I look at that and go, okay, if I'm worried about health and I'm worried about pesticides, I'm going to try and grow as many of the bad list in my backyard. So what's the solution? For us, we grow most of our food, and you can see here down in the corner 2 IBCs, intermediate bulk containers, or two halves, painted brown, Mission Brown. All right, everyone loves a good Mission Brown paint. You know where I found it? In the garden shed here at church that no one wanted to use. It's been there for I don't know how many years, but I grabbed it, painted these IBCs, and that's what we grow most of our produce in. What is a wicking bed or a water-wise garden bed? If you ever had, let's imagine for a moment, you've got 2 garden pots. One of them's got a saucer underneath and then the other doesn't. And you water them both, they've got the same plant. Which one retains moisture longer, the one with the saucer or without? The one with the saucer, because it's got a reservoir of water that wicks up into the soil and continues to water for a little bit longer. Now, we're just talking about upscaling that concept and creating a water reservoir in the bottom of your pot. Okay? So you water it less frequently, and you water at the base inside the IBC, so the water wicks up from the bottom. That's got a number of benefits for us, particularly in hot, windy, dry climate. You know, you try and grow things in garden pots, what happens here in Brisbane? That hot westerly wind blows through and they just dry out like that. So you constantly, you have to water them in the morning, and then you look at them at night time and they're fallen over, you've got to go out and water them again. Now that's not great for water usage. So what we're talking about is creating a system where the water is consistently in the bottom of the pot all the time, mostly, you dry it out every now and then, so that the garden bed wicks up moisture always. Now, I've learned from a couple of blokes. This guy's Mark. Self-sufficient me. I'm not a Christian man. I'm not encourage you to follow his philosophy. He's probably got a few ideas that would be contradictory to the Bible, but he grows up on just the north side of Brisbane, Sunshine Coast. He's got a farm up there, and he teaches about self-sufficiency and growing in your backyard. He's on YouTube. He's got his own website. He's a very interesting bloke. This guy's my favourite. This guy's Rob Bob. All right? He's out at Ipswich, all right? And he's got a YouTube channel called Rob Bob's Aquaponics and Backyard Farm. Maybe one year I'll talk to you about aquaponics, but I haven't had the best success with that. We tried it and had some success, but not enough. But he does wicking beds. This is just the thumbnail off one of his YouTube videos, all right? Grow better with DIY wicking beds. So what I've learnt mainly from other people, all right? And these guys put videos together, you can follow them. This is the plant pot, and this is the idea of the reservoir at the bottom. And this is what I have produced and grown most of my fruit and veg out of. You can see some layers here. We'll start at the bottom. We create a space, a void in the bottom of the IBC so that the water can rest in there. So it's basically creating volume. Now, some people do that using bread crates upside down. And then the soil and everything else sits on top of that, and then there's a big space in the bottom. Other people use scoria gravel, all right, because scoria is that volcanic rock and it's got a lot of voids in it. And if you were to pour, you know, this much gravel in the bottom of an IBC of scoria rock, then it creates a larger volume capacity for the water because it's got more airspace. I personally used gravel around the outside and and then a coil like a snake of slotted ag pipe. All right, you know, like slotted aggie pipe. I use that around and around and around, And in the middle, this picture here doesn't do it very well, but imagine this sand layer dropped right down to the middle of the coil of the snake. Because what I found is that you need the wicking action, the drawing of the moisture up, to be in connection with the sand. Because if you don't have any connection and the water's all down here and everything else sitting on top of bread crates, there's no wick. It doesn't draw up. So what I do is I drop the middle down and fill it with sand, because sand wicks really well. And then gravel around the outside and pipe. And then with the fill pipe, the snake coils around and then it goes up like this. So when I water the garden, guess where I put the hose? In the pipe. You know why that's good? Because you're not getting the leaves wet so that they get scorched off on a hot day. You're not getting evaporation where you're adding more and more mineral salts to your soil, because when it evaporates, all the minerals are left, sometimes badly, and you can oversalt your soil. So that's the concept. I'll come back to this page. Oh, no, I'll do it now. Water, coil, gravel, sand. They use geotextile fabric here. Why do you reckon they do that? So the soil and the sand don't mix too much and you don't end up with sand and soil in your water reservoir. So for me, I put geotextile and then sand, and then I put banana leaves, like as a woven mat about this fat of banana leaves. I figure that's going to work for a while, and it's about 7 years now and it hasn't caused a problem. And then I put composted soil from the horse farm, where Lady does some organic compost, and we've filled it up there, mingled in our own bits and pieces, topped with sugarcane mulch, planted our veggies, water from the bottom. I will say this, when you first put seedlings in, how deep are their roots? Very small. So you top water for the first 2 or 3 weeks until they get established. And you know they're established because they go from needing the water to just growing like crazy, and you're like, hey, they've got down to the level where the moisture's whipped up to. Their roots are in that place. So one of the questions that you might be asking, this diagram is missing something. What happens if it buckets down rain? Blub, 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 blub. You have an overflow. This one doesn't have it on here, but you put it just here on your sand level. It's basically a bung that goes out the side of the drum. So when it overwaters, it has a self-regulating overflow. So you don't get a soggy bed just floating with liquid and dead plants. And it works really well. We've had some pretty serious storms, and our wicking beds have filled, like they fill up, like water up to the top, but in about 3 or 4 hours, they're back to where they should be, and the plants survive it fairly well. So I'm going to go through some photos. Here's me, and that's Samuel when he was tiny, and our dog that we don't have anymore. Here's me cutting them up, marking them out, and laying 2 level pads. Why do you think it's important to be level? So that you get the most water in the reservoir. If you put them on a hill, what's going to happen? Well, your water's going to sit in the bottom bit, but not across the base. So you need a nice level pad. If you've got a concrete patio outside that's almost level, you can just use that, because you can put these on concrete. You can't do that with a normal garden bed easily. So there's the 4 that I've got down one side. The orientation is important. You're looking at that going, it looks a bit shady there. That is our most full sun part of our yard, and it's facing north. So from where this pole is pointing, or no, that's kind of northeast. This is north, so it gets best morning sun. Growing veggies needs good sun. So there are 4 around the back. I've got a little video here. If you pay attention, you'll see the coils of the snake waiting. This is around the other side of my house. That gets absolute full sun. North is this way, east that way, west this way. All right, so you can just see here. So you'll see the coils. I've put it on a sandy gravel pad. You've got the coils there kind of waiting for me. That's about how much I put in. And then the kids are around the corner playing in the dirt. All right. All right. Talked about the overflow. See this one here? This isn't on mine. This is one I got off the internet. They've put a bung or a tap adapter in the side of the tank, but it's got a bit of pipe sticking up. So where do you think the water's going to sit to to here? If you wanted to drain it out, turn it over and it'll sit down here. So you can control the amount of water in your reservoir, and you can drain them easily with a little pipe extension like that. You can use bathtubs in this way. The Williamsons have had some bathtubs for a long time doing the same thing. So your overflow is important. You can even, in Rob Bob out at Ipswich, because he gets big storms out there, he puts a second bung up here with a bigger hole, so he's got an extra overflow. So when it really buckets down, he doesn't get it all soggy. And I haven't bothered with that. Maybe I should have. Here's them filled up, sugarcane on the top. But the most exciting thing is here's some food that we've grown. So things that we grow in our beds. This is, this is a few years back. See, that's Edie there. These are kohlrabi, I think. These ones here, yep. German turnips. This is fennel. Got some lettuces planted through, some marigolds. That was Sam. Sam, where are you, mate? They're your marigolds, mate. Years and years ago, you were growing marigolds. We got some rhubarb down the back there, some snow peas coming up. I'll give you a list of the things that we've grown in the beds over the years. These are the ones. This is broccoli. Mate, the broccoli goes like crazy. Broccoli just goes silly. Shame that Dana can't eat it. I don't grow a lot of broccoli because Dana doesn't eat it. And you can get decent heads of broccoli, but you got to here in Queensland, you got to be willing to eat broccolini. You got to eat it when it's bolting to seed. You don't want to wait for those beautiful, dense, compact heads of broccoli that you get off the shelves at Coles. No, you're dreaming, all right? You're going to get things bolting to seed, long, scraggly bits and pieces. Taste just as good, all right? You just got to change the way you think. And you'll harvest that, it just keeps going. Anyone, I'll give you a little quiz. This is a trick, this one, anyone know what this is? Broad beans. Not broad beans, but I have put broad beans in for nitrogen fixing. It's not broad, yeah, it's hard to see. I'll give you a little zoom in maybe. No, I can't do that. No, I can't do zoom in. Uh-oh. Marijuana. Not marijuana. Can't say I've grown that.
Warrigal greens.
Yes, who said that? Warrigal greens, 10 points. Warrigal greens are our summer spinach, all right? You're not going to grow English spinach in Queensland in summer, you just won't. But you'll grow Warrigal greens and you'll grow Malabar spinach, Ceylon spinach, all summer long. All right, let's just see if I can get to the right one here. Down the end, this has gone to seed. I'll let things go to seed. Why? Seed saving, like we do. We harvest our seed. And by the way, I don't bother saving it because what happens to the seed? It falls into bed and it grows again, right? You'll never find me paying for a rocket seedling ever. They grow in our grass. Rocket growing down here, constant. This is rocket, all right? Arugula, if you're American, all right? You've got some nasturtiums in there, marigolds, like all sorts. And this is a bit of... So here's the questions that you want to know the answers to. What's good about it and what's not? You need some equipment. So we'll do the cons first, all right? Then we'll do the pros. The cons are it's a bit trickier to set up. I mean, growing a garden bed in the ground is easy. You just dig and plant, it's done. Bit of mulch, happy days. So it costs you a little bit as well. You need to buy or source a vessel, all right? And for me, $100 for an IBC, cut in half gives you 2. That's a good price for me. A bit of Aggie pipe wasn't too much. The fittings are expensive. You buy them from a plumbing store, your little bungs that do your overflows. But overall, it's a short-term expense that you don't have with a standard garden bed. More materials. You can break them. I should go back to this. The one that's growing, oh no. This one here, the one that's growing the Warrigal greens grow pretty much anywhere. The reason it's growing Warrigal greens is because it leaks. You know, the day I made it, I had it sitting on a gravel pad and I filled it up with all the dirt. And it's the lid part of the IBC, not the base part. So it's sitting on the red lid. And I filled it up with dirt and what happened? Cracked it. The broken system doesn't hold any water. It's not a wicking bed, it's a big garden pot, all right? So I'm going to water that one more than all the other 7. Or I plant something that loves dry in that one and get by, and Warrigal greens are that. But yeah, whenever I walk past that one, that's my unhappy bed, all right? Because that day I knew it. I tried to fill it up and I'm standing there for ages. Every other one of them's filled, but this one, I'm just standing there going, what's going on? And then I see the water flooding out under my feet and go, ah. And I wasn't digging out the dirt. You know, some people put a tomato stake through them. You'd regret that day, wouldn't you? You're trying to put your trellis in to hold your snow peas or something. You're sitting there banging it in and you punch straight through the IBC. That would be a miserable day. You've got to be careful with them. And UV degradation on IBCs is a thing. That's why I've painted mine to try and make them last. But you get about 10 years out of them quite easily. All right. So there's some cons. You can break them. And a closed system, it's nice when worms come up and, bugs and microorganisms do what they do in your soil. It's vital for growing produce. And because these things are essentially a closed system, you've got to be careful that you introduce the right nutrients. And you can actually put worms in the bed. That's what we do. We put our worm farm, and I'll talk about it this afternoon, we don't use a worm farm like in the black raised layered thing, because I've killed so many worms trying. They're unforgiving. They're fussy worms. But worms grown in a tower in the ground, a tube in the ground, easy. And they love the right moisture levels that these beds provide. So you can put your worm scraps straight in your garden bed in a tube. It's very, very clever. Works very well. So you need to add compost or a worm tower. You need to, like you would any garden bed, you can put dynamic lifter if you use those things. You have to treat it like it's a raised bed, a closed loop system. So it needs the right input for you to get the right output. But what are the pros? It's easy gardening. It's easy gardening. For those of us that don't like bending down, it's easy gardening. You're talking this high off the ground to begin with. You don't have to bend down nearly as far. And that might not seem like a big deal, but it's very comfortable to harvest, to plant, to weed, for those of us that are finding it a bit harder. It's more productive by space because the moisture level is consistent. It kind of keeps you in the right optimal moisture level all the time. So on the hot days, it doesn't dry out and things don't get heat stressed the same. You get more produce. Less weeds. Less weeds because since you're doing most of your watering from the subsoil rather than on the top is actually a little bit dry when the plants get established. So the weeds don't grow like they do in a regular garden bed where you're doing surface watering. So you've got less weeds to contend with, although if you see our garden and you talk to Dana this afternoon, weeds are not a problem for us. In fact, I go out there and she'll say, don't pull out the chickweed, I'm going to use it. And I'm looking at it going, it's everywhere, like, which bit do I not touch? She says, don't touch any of it. All right, I'm going to use it. She does. Dandelions in our lawn. Oh, if you ever want to touch on an issue in our marriage, just ask us about dandelions in the lawn. We don't have much lawn, but I think it should be lawn. And Dana thinks it should be food productive meadow growing dandelions for us to eat. All right? And it is a source of like gentle contention. Just mild. And the reason is, and it's only me, our neighbours hate it. Because they're all got these manicured lawns that are cared for and tended to, and ours is like a permaculture designed paradise. All right? And the neighbours look over and go, oh, I hope he sprays those weeds, and there's no way I'm spraying those weeds. Oh, she's walking in the back door right now. Perfect timing. All right. Less weeds, less water required overall because it doesn't evaporate. You don't need to water as often. Oh, it's good. We water our wicking beds maybe once a week through summer. How many times do you water your veggie garden through summer? Every day. Like, and if you can do it this way, it's just easier. Like, I like watering my garden. I like standing out there early in the morning and just like being part of it. I enjoy that, but I don't like having to do it. And if this takes up some of that time, it's a good thing. And you can put them on concrete. You can put them on really bad soil. If you've got soil contamination, if you've done a soil test and you realise your land has got particular, chemical issues, you can do this in a raised bed that keeps you separate from those problems. So there's possibilities there. And you don't have to do them this big. You can do this out of a small vessel, can't you? It just needs to be a plastic tub. Same concept, shrink it down. And then you have the same thing and the same rewards. And Dana, you can probably call out, these are some of our best results, the things that we would, regularly plant in our wicking bed. The thing that I don't have here is leeks. Dana, I forgot leeks. But leafy greens, rocket spinach, chard, silver beet, warrigal greens, lettuces, and I've added their open ones, like the fancy ones, the red lettuces, the open lettuces. Iceberg lettuce, kids, you got to get used to eating the bitter stuff. Like the iceberg lettuce on the hamburger, it's crunchy, it's delicious, but it's hard to grow. but open lettuces, cos lettuces we can do cos pretty well as well. Fennel, definitely, bulbing fennel. Brassicas like broccoli, cauliflower. Cauliflower I got an asterisk because I haven't really had good success, but we keep trying and they look good and then things happen like bugs get into them. But broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts we've done. Wombok we do a lot of. I've got about, how many wombok we got in at the moment? I don't know, 30 or something. You know, 12, yeah, 50, 20 to 30. And they just grow. They just grow. Kohlrabi, we've done well. Turnips, beetroot, yes. Perennial capsicum, chilies just grow crazy. Habaneros, I've done jalapenos, cayenne. Tomatoes are a bit of a bane. We all want, like you say, you want the iceberg lettuce and you want the big, juicy tomatoes. But guess what? Fruit fly just destroy them. So we grow cherry tomatoes and we grow like a yellow variety. And I don't know what it's called. Do you know what it's called, Dana? Lemon drop. Lemon drop, or a hybrid of, because they've cross-pollinated and done things. But the fruit fly don't seem to strike the yellow tomatoes as much as they do the red. And the shorter growing season means they go from flower to fruit faster, and the fruit fly doesn't tend to be as big a problem. So cherry tomatoes for us, I know it's not the same as slicing your big beef eater or the heirloom tomatoes. And you guys that do those, keep doing them, because yes, we love them, but we just haven't got the time to net them and care for them, and we don't want to spray them either, so we have to deal with that. Snow peas, heaps, they're on right now. Strawberries are just coming on. Cucumbers when the time is right, and fruit fly do get the cucumbers. Green beans and different varieties, but snake beans, snake beans grow like you have never seen something grow before. If I let them grow into the trees, they will grow into the trees and I'll have beans hanging down like ornaments for forever. And you got to harvest them every day, because when they get big, they're bitter and not very nice, but you get the young ones out there every day. I'd be getting a handful like this of snake beans out of one bed. It's just, beans just grow. Our failures, zucchini. Anyone, can you guys grow zucchinis? Because I struggle with zucchini. If you know how to do it, tell me later. A powdery mildew is the bane of our existence, and it's our moisture. And I actually think the wicking beds aren't great for it, because you've got constant moisture, and zucchini needs that airflow, and it needs that powdery mildew just comes on and we have issues. Big tomatoes, cucumbers, carrots we haven't had much success with, but we have with beetroots and other like root veggies, but carrots not so much. Onions, no good. Anything else that's no good, Dana, that we haven't had success with, failures? But I'll put beetroot as a success. Yeah. Eggplant goes pretty well, but fruit fly does get it. And we get other bugs that get in and bore bigger holes. So we've got to harvest them pretty young. And we grow a variety that's like a long, skinny beetroot rather than the big fat ones. And those ones tend to fruit quicker. So I'm going to take you on a bit of a garden tour. If you're out at my place right now, we just walk around and I'd say, hey, have you seen this? These things aren't necessarily grown in the wicking beds, but that's a crimson rosella. We've made jam out of that. We can eat the leaves and the flowers. Crimson rosella is lovely. There's a bee on the rocket. Little sweet pea. I love the flowers on the sweet peas. Don't eat those ones. That's bad. There's some of they're not really cherry tomatoes, but they're like halfway between. There's them ripened up a little bit more. Yeah, looking good. Little perennial capsicums. That's a capsicum plant that goes for years and years and years. You plant it and it just grows small, kind of, yeah, small, but that's not chili, that's not spicy. There's another one on the perennial capsicum, just tiny little fruits, but they're just like capsicums. I don't know, heartsease or viola or something. Pansy, yeah. Yeah, Dana puts the flowers in, I just plant them. This is echinacea. Maybe one year Dana might talk to you a bit about herbs, but she's got a medicinal herb bed there. Echinacea, feverfew down the bottom there, the little pretty flowers. Chamomile all down the side there that's kind of gone off bloom. That's more feverfew. Corn. Why is there a corn stalk there? I don't know. Because it is, right? Because it is. I like this one. We've got a picture of the butterfly roaming through. It's a varied egg fly butterfly I found. This is kind of how it looks. It's not quite like that at the moment, but you got the garden. The wicking beds are down here for our veggies. Dana's medicinal herbs down in here, and some more salad stuff down in here on the side. Has anyone ever grown loofah? Anyone tried to grow loofah? Has anyone eaten loofah? You can eat the juvenile loofah. Don't eat the big ones. All right, they're for sponges. All right. It's nice in soup. Yeah. Loofah grows in Brisbane like flies on a pig. Like, this is on our roof. Dana was saying, how many have you got left up there? Because I was standing on the patio roof harvesting loofah and throwing them down to her. And this is a photo I just took while I was standing up there just to show Dana how many we've got. Oh, we've lost it. But the loofah will grow. If you want some loofah, I've got some at home, and I've got seeds galore. It's not the tastiest, but it's very easy to grow lots of it, and it grows without pest problems. Like, no spray, mostly. Dana's like, yeah, you get a few fruit flies that strike it. But mulberries out the front. Someone told me mulberry trees are illegal in Brisbane, like they're a controlled plant, but I say, what? Yeah. Food's illegal, yeah, I know. There's Samuel, mulberry juice. Yeah. For those that know, and these are just some bloom photos that I took, there's an acerola cherry in blossom, Panama berry. These are some of the trees that we grow. Pigeon pea. If you were walking through the garden, I'd show you all these things. There's a bit of Thai basil in flower. And there's the shed, and then, yeah, things happening. So that's the backyard, but and later on today we'll have a question and answer time. If there's something that you've seen in brief and you've gone, hey, that was interesting, but I need to know more, come ask me. If you would like to talk more, I'll show you the resources. If you want to just go check out Rob Bob's YouTube page or Self-Sufficient Me, you'll see them going through the whole build process and talk you through it all in a way that you can take your time, you can stop, you can pause, you can think it through. But what I want to do is just encourage you to try and build that buffer so that you can be less dependent on the world and its system when the world and its system doesn't actually care for us. And 50, 60 years ago, your grandparents, my grandparents wouldn't have been flustered so much if the system broke down. Our kids growing up today aren't prepared for a failure in the system. Everything they want it now. For those that are wondering, we might do bees next time. This is my backyard. That's a swarm that just came in. Now, I probably got Chelsea yelling at me on the video as well. Sorry about that. There's the corn in the wicking bed. There are bees absolutely everywhere. And the kids are inside saying, aren't you getting stung, Dad? No. So I do keep some bees. And that was a swarm from just a wild hive or another beekeeper's hive that was neglected, and it split and swarmed into my backyard and made its home. So that's now my hive, and I'm enjoying the honey from it. It's a lovely thing. So maybe next time if you're interested in bees, we can talk about that. I might leave that on no, I won't, because it's not going to change. If you want details about those resources that I mentioned, ask me. But we're going to close my session. I'm actually going to hand it over pretty much straight away to Mick, if that's okay. Mick, are you happy to come up? Yep. We've got to get your computer set up as well. We'll do that. And you can take over where I'm leaving off. And do you need this one?
I'm not a real tech man. Do you have a clicker that I could click clicks?
Yeah.
If I'm doing that? Yep. Thank you very much.
We'll just get you set up.
I
Sorry,
didn't
Mick.
realise how many people were here sitting up the front.
You need your password, mate. And then I'll put the link on.
Just get who's on this one. On?
Yeah, the screen's off.
Church, is that right?
Yeah, church. And we're just going to pick up that code 0217.